This thing can do absolutely anything a skid steer loader can do. So for example, let's say I want to teach the pressures related to angle of incline. I can go to slope selection. These are all the parameters in real time. So I'm looking at amps, I'm looking at electric motor or engine speed, I'm looking at my left-hand speed, left-hand, I'm looking at system pressure, rear pump, and charge pressure, rear pump, and I'm looking at the same thing on the front pump. Let's say I want the student to learn how to troubleshoot this motor or that pump, to do a flow test on it. I put the flow meter in line, and then I say, let's do this test at 1200 psi. I select 5 degrees. That may take me to 1200 psi. So now this thing is loading to 1200. So these motors are driving the motors under here, and this thing is loading in real time in exactly the same pressure that a skid steer loader would be running at. So I can really load up. I can go to 10 degrees, 50 degrees, or 35 degrees. So this thing is going to load up big time. All right, so what I can do then, if I want to go to real-time troubleshooting, I can track this thing as well. I can drive it. So you're looking at the panel. It's a virtual panel. You've got left-hand speed, joystick percentage of joystick actuation, system pressure, charge pressure, system oil temperature. So I mean, I can't start this thing, but I'll drive it like this. So I can drive it. I can turn left. I can turn right. So I can drive the machine up the hill. I can see slope there. I can see what my slope is on my heads-up dash there. Let's go to drive time. So, sorry, let me go back there so you can see that. You want to take there. So if you want to do a video of this, you're welcome to. There's a video. So you can see this thing moving. All right. And then, of course, I'll go back to real-time troubleshooting. This is really interesting because now what I can do, activity 1, machine slows down after it's operating for a few hours. That's a very common problem. What we try to do when we build problems into these, we don't do hypotheticals. We do problems that you'd have in real time. Okay?
Okay.
So we don't go and waste people's time trying to do things that they'll never do. All right, so you got activity here. It explains. Next will be the terrain. Not that you'd run this thing on a road. But at the end of the day, what will happen now is as you start to drive this thing, it'll start going south, meaning the temperatures will start to go up. It'll do everything that is pertaining to that particular problem. Then what the student will do, because now the student's going to have to troubleshoot it, is the student will then park the machine and go to repair screen. There's your schematic. Now, let's say the student tests the right-hand motor, and the right-hand motor is leaking internally. The student will go to the right-hand motor, touch it, and it'll replace the motor. The instructor's walking around the class. The instructor can see what the student's done. If I test this the pump that is associated with the motor, the front pump, and I find the front pump is defective, I go there and I replace the pump. So I'm now replacing the parts. Now remember, if you replace stuff that doesn't have anything wrong with it, it's going to cost you for that transmission right there. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, how much is this machine? All right, well, you can start out at $35,000. You can go all the way to $75,000. Just remember one thing. One Sauer Danfoss system, is about $17,000, just one. If a student can learn on this thing and go out and save one transmission, you can only imagine you've got 20 students. Multiply that by the numbers of the money they'll save, because I'll tell you one thing, and I don't mean to be arrogant when I say this. I'll take any student that's gone through my hydrostatic transmission course, any one, and I'll put them against any student at any training center anywhere in this country. On a competency test, my students will blow them out of the water. And not, folks, don't get me wrong here. That's not because these schools don't have good instructors. No. It's because they don't have the equipment they need to do the training. So you go and get a skid steer loader. You know, you may have them. There is no way you can learn to troubleshoot a skid steer loader with a skid steer loader. That thing was built for landscaping, for construction work. You get into the bowels of the machine, it's ugly, it's dirty, it's dangerous, it's noisy, you can't start it, and the students are not getting the learning value out of it. So what this does for me is it lets me learn everything I need to know about the hydrostatic without the threat of burning myself, of getting stuck under the machine, and besides, I can have how many students at a time? I can have the whole class around this thing. On a skid steer, you've got one student in there at a time. You're not going in there with two. You just can't get in. So while I will never criticize a school that's using a skid steer, only because it may have been donated. But let's face it, folks, in all the years I've been training, I have never had a student that will challenge me, and again, I don't mean that arrogantly, on a troubleshooting a hydrostatic drive. So you see the money that these guys are throwing at it. Nobody knows. I mean, I don't have people, and they don't keep the good ones out of my classes. They give me everybody. You know, the oil field, one oil field machine has got 6 hydrostatic transmissions on it. And they're begging for people that can go and help them troubleshoot these systems. Even the factory people are battling. So at the end of the day, when you look at, okay, what are we doing at the end of the day? What's our end game? Our end game, our customer is the student. It's our customer. And we have to serve that student well. And the only way to do it is to buy stuff like this. And again, folks, you have to realize I build this for myself. I'm a teacher. So I'm not a salesman. But the fact of the matter is, I know I can get the job done with something like this. But I will also be the first guy to say, you've got to do the best with the money you have. And I'll be the first one to say that. So if you say to me, Rory, you know, I like this, but I can buy a skid steer loader for 10 grand and it's all I've got. Hey, what can I say?